Hi friends, I'm glad we get to be together again. It's Mrs. Burke. We're here to draw together even while we're apart. And we've been doing this together for a whole month now. For the whole month of September, we got to create all sorts of fun things to fill out our workspaces with function and with beauty. We made pencil holders and folders and earbud holders and even some fancy leaf art to decorate our spaces. And that's been kind of fun, hasn't it? To do school from home? But it's also kind of hard. Sometimes being at home and not getting to see our friends and not getting to have recess and not getting to go to PE and not getting to come to the art room, those things are kind of hard. Having to wear a mask when we go outside, that's kind of hard. There's probably a lot of things that we all miss. But guess what? We're not alone. Over centuries and centuries, artists have gone through hard things. And as they've gone through hard things, they have had grit. Do you know what grit is? Grit is the idea that we still work hard, we still try, we still keep going even when we fail. Even when we're sad, even when things are hard, we still keep going. And so this month, we're going to talk about all sorts of different artists who had grit. Famous artists that went through some really hard things. And this week and next week are especially special weeks to talk about grit because it is National Hispanic Heritage Month. And so we're going to talk about some Hispanic artists. That's artists who maybe came to the United States from Mexico or Spain or Puerto Rico or Cuba or Honduras, any Latin American country. We're going to talk about a couple of those artists and how they overcame hard things and created some really cool art. This week, we're going to talk about a famous Mexican artist. Some of you already know her. Some of you would recognize her. But I'm going to show you her picture, a photograph of her right now, and see if you can guess who she is. Did you guess? Okay, so you've seen, some of you might be yelling it out right there at your table. Now I'm going to show you a couple of paintings that she did of herself. I want to see if you can guess who it is. Those were pretty cool, weren't they? Our artist's name is Frida Kahlo. And Frida was a Mexican artist, a teeny tiny little lady who went through a lot of hard things in her life. When she was only 6 years old, she developed a disease called polio, and it left one of her legs about 3 inches shorter than her other leg. But she continued to play and to create and to paint even as a little girl. Then when she was older, she was in a bus accident, a really, really, really bad car accident that left her in the hospital for months. But that didn't stop her from creating. Do you know what happened? Her dad built her a special easel. Do you know what an easel is? Actually, I think I can turn my camera so you can see. You see that painting right back there? It's on a stand. That's a painting that I'm working on right now. It's on a stand that holds the painting up, and that's called an easel. Well, her dad made a special easel that fit right over her hospital bed. So she kept painting even while she was in the hospital, months and months and months. And so she can paint while she's going through a bad illness. If she can paint while she's in the hospital, I bet we can paint while we're at home right now, can't we? Here's one more example of how Frida Kahlo had grit. She had a big, fancy art show. It was called a solo show, which means it was only her paintings in a big fancy gallery, but she was very, very sick. In fact, so sick that the doctor said that she was not allowed to leave her bed. So do you know what she did? She had them drive her bed to the art gallery. She went to her own art show in an ambulance, and they just wheeled her bed right into the gallery, and she got to talk to people about her paintings from her bed. That is crazy perseverance. Well, one of the things that Frida is super famous for is the fact that she liked to paint one thing more than anything else. And do you know what it was? She liked to paint herself. She liked to paint her own face. And maybe that's because she was by herself a lot, in bed, at home, sick. And so she painted her face over and over and over again with all sorts of interesting backgrounds and frames and things attached to her face. Let's look at some of her self-portraits that she painted of her own face. Those were pretty cool, weren't they? Well, I thought it would be fun for us to paint our faces. But we're not just going to paint our faces regularly. In each one of Frida's self-portraits, they kind of told a story, didn't they? Kind of showed you something interesting that was going on in her life or going on around her, or something about her culture or something that she liked. And so I thought we should paint self-portraits that show something that's going on in our world right now. And so we're gonna paint our self-portraits with our masks on. We're gonna talk about where to put our eyes, how to draw our faces, but guess what? We don't have to worry about our noses or our mouths because we're gonna cover them up with our masks. We're gonna use pencils, Sharpies, crayons, and watercolors. Say that again. Pencils, Sharpies, crayons, and watercolors. We're gonna create our face, we're gonna draw our mask, and then you guys get to choose whatever you like to put on your mask. I happen to love poppies, a certain kind of flower, and so I painted poppies on my mask. Maybe you love donuts, or Fortnite, or soccer, or ballet, or playing the guitar, or teddy bears, or fried chicken. Whatever you love, I want you to put that on your mask. So even though your face is covered, your mask is going to tell a little story about who you are and what you like. All right, let's get drawing together. So, you guys want to know something super funny? This is the painting that I showed you in the first part of the video. Then I did a whole video and I did this one instead. And guess what? The video camera didn't record. So now I'm doing it again. So we're gonna have 3 different versions of Mrs. Burke. And you know what's even crazier about that? That's a good example of grit. Even though my camera didn't work, we're gonna get to do the lesson again. So let's learn how to draw our faces. Let's do some fun portraits, self-portraits, just like Frida Kahlo. All right, first thing we need to do is draw our face. And our face is usually an oval or a circle. And notice on both of these examples, is my face a little teeny tiny circle in the middle of my paper? No. Is it way up here at the top? No. It takes up the whole page, or a big chunk of the page anyway. So let's do the same here. And we're going to do an invisible drawing like we usually do. We're going to take our finger and we're going to imagine where our face is going to be drawn. So we're gonna imagine it's not this big, it's not way up here. We're gonna do a nice big oval that fills up most of the page. This is a pretty good trick because it shows your brain where it's gonna go. That way, when you get your pencil, you're gonna follow kind of that same track. You can go around and around and around until you get a shape. Notice that, so you see how I've got 2 lines there? That's because I don't think you need to be able to draw a perfect oval or a perfect circle the first time. That's why I go around and around and around until I get something that I like. Then I can erase the extra pieces. But see how lightly I drew? When you draw lightly like that, it makes erasing the parts you don't like so much easier. Now, we also need to have our head attached to our neck. Can't just have it floating in space. And sometimes we're tempted to put our heads on a little tiny popsicle stick like this. But we're gonna do our neck on either side of our head so that our head has something solid to sit on. If you put your own hand on your neck, you'll realize that it's really right underneath the side of your jaw. So I'm gonna draw a gentle curved line to the right and a gentle curved line to the left. Gentle curved line to the right, gentle curved line to the left. That gives my head a solid foundation to sit on. Now, we're gonna start off by drawing the eyes. In both of these self-portraits, you can see that the eyes are in about the same place. We often think that eyes go on the top because they're the main thing that you notice in a portrait, but they're not in the top of the head. They're actually right in the middle of the head. If I put my finger at the bottom of my chin and at the top of where my head is, it's kind of hiding in my hair here. Watch what happens. Put my pencil down. Watch what happens when I bring my fingers together. They meet right in the middle, and that's where the eyes go. Same thing with this one, top of the head, bottom of the chin, meet right in the middle where the eyes go. So we're gonna do that on our drawing here. Finger at the bottom, finger at the top. We're gonna let them meet right in the middle. Now, what I want you to do is when your fingers meet in the middle, I want you to take away the hand that you usually write with. Leave this finger here and add another one to it. Right where these 2 fingers are, we're going to put a little line on one side and a little line on the other side. And what this does is it gives us the space between the 2 eyes. See how it's 2 fingers apart? So we just like that, we did a line there and a line there so we know where to start the inside of the eye. Now watch this cool trick. 2 fingers there. If we do 2 more fingers, that's how wide the white part of the eye is. So I'm gonna line my fingers up next to this line, and I'm gonna just do a little mark over here. And I'm gonna line my fingers up next to this line and do a little line over here. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. And between these 2 lines, I'm gonna draw one eye, and between these 2 lines, I'm gonna draw another eye. Here's an important tip. If you like to write with your right hand, you should always start by drawing your left eye. And if you like to draw with your left hand, you should always start by drawing your right eye. It makes it so that your hand doesn't block the other eye that you need to see. Now let's talk about eye shape. There are several different shapes of eyes, but we're going to divide them up into 3 categories. The first one we're going to talk about is a football. It goes up and down and up. Top of the eye, bottom of the eye. Some people have eyes that look more like a lemon half, like a lemon slice. So it still goes up and down at the top, but a little more flat at the bottom. And some people's eyes look more like an almond, where this comes up, but it doesn't come all the way down again. And then the inside is a little curved and then goes back up like that. Some people's eyes are an almond that points up, and some people have eyes that are an almond that points down. Always good to have an eraser. So we either have a football, a lemon slice, an almond that points up, or an almond that points down. You can pause right here if you want and go look in the bathroom and try to figure out what shape your eye is. Then we're going to come back and we're going to draw our eye shape. My eyes are kind of football shaped. So remember, because I'm right-handed, I'm going to start on the left-hand side. And I'm going to have my eye start at this line and end at this line. So I'm going to go up and down, and then I'm going to go down and up. And then this eye is going to be between these two lines. Up and down and down and up. So now I have two eyes about the same size. Nobody's eyes are exactly the same, but I'm missing some parts. That's the white of our eyes. Now I need to do the iris, the donut part of the eye. That's pretty easy. It's just a circle with another circle. We want our circles to touch the top and the bottom of the eye. And sometimes part of the circle will be hidden. So I'm going to take mine and I'm going to do my circle like that. Now because my eyelid covers over half of my circle, I'm going to just erase anything that goes over that line. And I'm going to do the same thing here, trying to get about the same size circle. Just like that. Now, I'm going to leave that one there for just a second to show you something. I said that our eyes are like a donut, an outside circle and an inside circle. I'm going to put my donut hole right in the center of my circle. Now you'll notice that the center of my circle is a little closer to that top eyelid. If you want to do that, you can. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. Center of my circle, kind of towards the top of my eyelid. Sometimes we can adjust these a little bit. Not perfect, and that's okay. I like to add two more little circles, one right there and one right there, to add a little bit of shine, and we're going to leave those white when we start to color things in. Now our eyes have a couple more features. They have our eyelids. You can see on both of mine, I drew an eyelid above the top and I did a few eyelashes. You might have a pronounced eyelid where you really see that eyelid over the top of your eye. You might not see any eyelid at all, or you might see just a tiny little bit. Maybe you just see a little bit of your eyelid. These eyes all need donuts, don't they? Let's give them some donuts. Sometimes our donuts are cut off at the top and the bottom. Let's see this eyelid maybe goes like that. And then we'll add some eyelashes if you want. Some of you might really like to have a lot of eyelashes, and some of you might not like to draw eyelashes at all. Some eyelashes go up, other eyelashes come out and go down a little bit. So you can look at your eyelashes and see what they do. I'm going to draw my eyelids here, starting on the left because I'm a righty. Go up and down, up and down, and then I'm going to just give myself a few little eyelashes here. Give myself a few eyelashes on the bottom. All right, now we need to add some eyebrows. Eyebrows make a rainbow up and over the eye, and they're wider than the eye itself. So you're going to make a little rainbow that's wider than your eyeball. So I'm going to just make a rainbow. I'm going to start here. Notice I'm starting farther in than that line, and I'm going to go up and over, and I'm going to do the same thing here, up and over. My eyebrows kind of come up a little bit, and then the rainbow goes back over again. You might find that you have eyebrows that go way up and down like this. You might have eyebrows that are just kind of straight across. You might have eyebrows that make a big rainbow. Take time again if you want to pause the video and go check out your own eyebrows. Okay, we're back. Now usually when we do self-portraits, We do the nose next, and then we do the mouth. But this time, because we're going to draw masks, we don't need to do that. All we need to do is go swoop, swoop. We want to make sure, because masks should always cover your nose and your mouth and your chin, we're going to draw our masks to do that. So I'm going to start at the side of my head, and I'm just right below the eye, and I'm going to draw a swoop to where the middle between the two eyebrows, and then a swoop. Do that again. You can do it with me. Swoop, swoop. Now bring that mask, and we're basically just going to follow the same shape as your face. Bring it all the way down so that it covers. Now that mask has got to hold on to something, doesn't it? So we need to draw some ears. And ears usually start at the top of the eyes. So I'm going to take my pencil, come over to the side of my head. I'm going to draw a big, long letter C. My ear will start at the top and come down to about the bottom of where my nose would be. And do the same thing over here. A backwards, long C. And I've got some ears. If you want, you could draw your straps going over the tops of your ears. And then this is a great bald Mrs. Burke. But Mrs. Burke isn't bald. I have long brown hair. Now notice, did I draw my hair starting at the top of my head? No. Our hair usually starts partway down our forehead. This is called your hairline. It's where your hair meets your head. Now, some people, let's see if I can find this. Some people, we'll just go ahead and draw, where did we go? We'll just draw some new ones. Let's draw a few different kinds of hairlines. So let's draw a few heads here. We've got our masks. Woo! That's a crooked mask. That person needs to fix their mask. So we've got some masks. We got some eyeballs. That kind of looks like a duck, doesn't it? Some eyebrows, some ears. We'll do the same thing over here. Do some eyes. And then we'll do some lemon slice eyes. All right, so all of these folks need some hair. Oh, this person needs some ears. Let's pretend that this is a young woman with a ponytail who parts her hair in the middle. We're going to draw that part right down the middle and then bring the hair down behind the ears. Already it looks like her hair is back. And let's put a little bit of a ponytail showing at the top of her head. Now maybe she likes her ponytail to come and stick out the side. Or maybe it's not a ponytail. Maybe it's a braid. We'll do a little wiggly line over here and another wiggly line over there. And you can kind of crisscross and make it look like a braid. Maybe this is a young man who has really short hair. And his hair kind of is spiky. Comes up, up, up. Spiky, 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 spiky. And then across his head, spiky, 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 spiky. Just like that. And then maybe this person has kind of just medium hair. Maybe the hair parts on the side, some bangs, and some bangs, and just comes around like that. Whatever your hair looks like, just make sure that it goes a little bit above your head and that you erase your hair. You erase your head so that your hair can look like you. Feel free to pause the video here if you want and go look at your hair in the mirror. Figure out what your hairline is. Where does your hair, what shape does your hair make when it touches your forehead? I'll go ahead and do mine here. Actually, because we've already got two examples of me already, I'm going to do somebody that looks totally different. Let's see. I'll do one of these. Okay, so we have all of our parts. We have eyes and eyebrows, we have a mask, we have ears, and we have hair and a neck. Now, it's the fun part. Now we get to make it come alive. So the first thing we're going to do is trace our pencil lines with Sharpie. And remember, I'm going to leave those two little white lines, or those two little white circles, blank. You'll watch me do that as I trace with my Sharpie. After we trace with Sharpie, oh, goodness gracious, I forgot a step. We're going to decorate our masks. In the first one, I drew poppies on my mask because I love poppies. They're my favorite flower. And so you can draw something that tells us a little bit about you. Maybe you love football or Fortnite or soccer or donuts or fried chicken or cacti. I don't know what you love, but something that you love you could draw right on your mask. Or maybe you just want to do a design. On this one, I just decided to do a stripe design with some pattern in it. I think on this one, I am going to do, I think I'm going to do a fall one. I think I'll do pumpkins on this one. You decide what you want to do on yours, and you can watch me draw mine or fast forward through this part. Okay, so I drew a little fall design on this because I happen to really like fall. Now we're going to take our black Sharpie and we're going to trace over all of our lines. Make sure that you erased the line where your head was, so we're not going to trace that line. Okay, so we have our drawing drawn, our Sharpie traced. I might choose to go back and just erase some of my pencil lines. You can go ahead and erase yours, or you can leave them. It just really doesn't matter. Now, our next step is going to be to color just a few things with our crayon. We're going to do a technique called watercolor resist. That means we're going to put some color down with crayon, and then we're going to paint over the back with watercolor. So here are the areas we're going to color with crayon. We are going to color the iris part of our eyes, leaving a little bit of white up in the corner. We're going to color a few lines in our hair, but not the whole thing. And we're going to color a few areas on our mask. You'll notice that on this mask, I colored in my lightning bolts, I colored in my blue stripes, and I just traced around my red stripes. On this one, I colored in my flowers, I colored in my leaves, and then I just traced around the outline of the mask. Also colored in my eyebrows. I didn't trace my eyebrows on this one, but I did on this one. So go ahead and grab your crayons. Oh, let me show you the difference between these two. In this one, I left it white, kept it simple, and you can leave yours simple like that. But I thought about Frida Kahlo's self-portraits and how she never had a white background. She always had really interesting things going on in the background. So on this one, I just did a simple design with crayon and then painted a bright color over it. So you can decide if you want to decorate your background or not. Okay, so I just put some crayon down. Notice, I didn't really color these all the way in. I did kind of a quick coloring job, and I did that on purpose because I'm going to take some watercolor, and some of the places that I left white are going to get filled with watercolor paint. This paper doesn't love watercolor, and so I'm going to show you a little trick that will make it work better. The first thing we're going to do is paint our skin. For our skin, we're going to paint our ears, our faces, our eyelids, making sure not to paint the whites of our eyes, and our necks. So what I want you to do first is just paint those areas with water. If you can see, you can kind of look and see how that's kind of shiny. The reason we're going to do that is it just softens the paper a little bit and helps us to blend our paint for our skin. So I've just gone ahead first and wet the part, just the part that's for my skin. Now we get to use the watercolor paints. And you might look at these and say, Mrs. Burke, there is no skin color. And I will tell you what I always tell you. There is no such thing as skin color. We all have shades of brown skin. Some of us have a little bit of orange mixed in with our skin. Some of us have a little bit of yellow mixed in with our skin. Some of us maybe even have a little bit of pink mixed in with our skin. But I'm going to mix all of those colors to make my skin tone here. Maybe a little bit of pink, kind of by where my cheeks are. Come back and add a little bit of brown in my ears, a little bit of brown on my neck. And notice, I'm not putting a lot of paint on. In fact, this ear got a little much, so I'm going to wipe it off a little bit. There we go. Just a tiny bit of water and just enough paint to cover that up. I might add a little bit of darkness right here. And don't forget to do your eyelids. I always forget the eyelids. So I use brown and orange and pink and yellow to make my skin. You might choose any kind of combination to make the skin on yours. Now we're going to just follow the same process. Every time I want to paint a section of my painting, I am going to wet that section and then I'm going to paint it. So you can follow along and watch me, or you can go for it on your own. Okay. There is our finished product. Notice that I went back after I finished my painting of my portrait, and I decided I wanted to do kind of a funky background with different leaves and different colors of watercolors, and just kind of had fun with that. When I did the hair, the first time I put the paint on, it was pretty light. And then when I put it on the second time, you can see it made much darker colors. So just play around and experiment. So now we have 3 different portraits. Obviously that one is not me. Maybe it looks like you. 3 different portraits, all done with the same technique. Well, there we have it. That was fun, wasn't it? I can't wait to see what your self-portraits look like. I know today I made 3, not on purpose. I made the first one as a sample. I made the second one while I thought I was filming the teaching video, and it didn't work. So I got to experience grit while I was teaching about grit. And maybe you had times today when you got frustrated or things didn't work out the way that you wanted. Maybe you couldn't get your oval right, or maybe you didn't like the shape of your eyes the first time. Or maybe you didn't like the crayon color you chose, or you couldn't figure out what design to do on your mask. That's all part of art. Stopping and thinking, erasing a lot, doing things again and again, and just having fun, even when we're not perfect. So I hope that you continue to have grit, not only while you create art, but as you're learning from home. As you're home with your family, some days are going to be easy. Some days are going to require a lot of grit. But I'm glad that we get to have grit together. And I look forward to seeing you next week as we draw together, even when we're apart.